What's going on, everybody? I hope Yinz are doing good today, and welcome to the second episode of YGP. I'm Woodsy.
And I'm Gus.
And hey, man, let's just get straight to it.
Yeah.
So what do we got today?
So today we are showcasing the Two Notes Revolt Bass. So it is a 3-channel all analog preamp for us bass players. Woodsy showcased the guitar version of this in the last episode, so now we get to do something for all the bass players out there.
Yeah.
So basically what we have is, like I said, 3-channel preamp, and so we have 3 different voicings here. So we got a clean channel, which is based off of an Ampeg SVT. It's an early 70s model. We got a vintage dirt channel, which is based off of a Marshall JMP 1992 Mark II super bass. Very specific.
Mouthful.
Sounds great, I know. And then we have our modern drive channel, which is a custom design by Two Notes Audio. On the back, we do have our input. We got an effects loop, which is not super common for a lot of preamp pedals, which is nice. So you get to run effects all through that. You can also use the effects loop to run the 4-cable method, which is really neat. You got a ground lift switch, an XLR out, and you even have a MIDI in and out, so that way this can essentially be the heart of any kind of switching programming that you have on your pedal board. If you decide to do this on your pedal board, which I did, I basically wasted no time in putting this on my board. As soon as I got it in, I plugged it in, listened to it, and I was like, it's going on there. On the other side, we do have the switch to activate the 4-cable method. We have an analog cab sim that is also switchable on and off, and that's based off of an Ampeg SVT 8x10E cabinet. Other than that, we've basically been using this preamp pedal at our gig. This is fairly new, so I actually tried this out for the first time this past Saturday, I think, at one of our gigs. So, fun fact, Woodsy and I are a part of a top 40 band. So we do a lot of corporates, a lot of weddings, so we need to cover a lot of ground musically with a lot of different genres. And so when Two Notes came out with this, we wanted to try it out, and it really does cover a lot of ground.
It does, because I ended up being the first to check out or play it live with the Revolt guitar side, and then so the same time that I ended up getting that, he was like, I have to get the bass.
Yeah.
So once we were able to have time to get it onto his rig as well. But enough talk, let's start getting into some sounds. So I'm actually going to be using my Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray Special 5-string, and I'm going to be switching between different pickup configurations to kind of mimic some different basses, like jazz basses, precision basses, just so we can kind of get more of like that sound that a lot of these different genres are going to need. So I will give you the pure sound of this bass. So I'm going to start off with actually the 2 outer single coils. It's going to give it more of a jazz bass sound, and that'll work really well with this clean channel that we have here first. So here's just a little sound sample of dry bass. Even just without it sounds good.
Yeah, I love this bass. It's definitely one of my favorite basses. But now here is the clean channel, that Ampeg SVT.
Man, dude, I don't know if you can hear it, but like for us, we can hear that it just like tightens it up, and it gives that sponginess.
And
for sure.
With the tube that is in this preamp, which is a 12 AX7 tube running at 200 volts internally, it just sounds like a giant tube amp. Yeah. And for a lot of us bass players, we're always looking for that warmth, that kind of pillowy, especially under the fingers. When you're playing something, the sound is not the only thing that you're focusing on. It's how it feels under your fingers. So just with this, it cleans it up. It almost kind of has somewhat of a natural compression to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'll even do a couple slap examples just because of how great that sounds. So again, bypass now. So here's a dry bass slapping.
Not with it.
Dude. It sounds great. It really does sound great. It's nice and clean, but what is really nice about this channel is that you could push the gain, actually, and it won't really dirty anything up. It'll just be a lot more present.
Yeah,
so if I play that same thing... It just gives a lot more presence, which is honestly super, super nice, and I really enjoy that.
Let me just go through and you kind of play as well.
Yeah. You know what? I'll actually switch it into what I call Stingray mode, so it'll be this full back bridge pickup, and I'll kind of play a classic bass line just to give that full, really, really nice percussive element for this channel. So here we go.
All right. Yeah. That sounds, man, it just sounds so good.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, there's definitely spots where it was like a little either hairy or a little much, but in general, I mean, there's a wide range that you can really use.
Especially
with that channel.
if you have an active bass with an active EQ on it, you're able to get a wide variety of different tones. But let's go ahead and move on to our vintage dirt channel, that Marshall Super Bass with a name that's 10,000 miles long. But yeah, so let's go ahead and give this one. I'm going to be playing with the pick, and I'm switching the position where it's going to be the middle tool coil. So this is going to give it that kind of more rock P bass kind of sound that is more of a scooped kind of sound. So let's give that a listen. It's just good dirt. It is great dirt.
It's so good.
Yeah. It seems to be the common agreement that this channel is kind of the MVP of this preamp. And it's probably the same thing for the guitar version of it too, that 100%. Marshall.
Well, I mean, but you know, both you and I really, really like that channel specifically for the guitar version as well. It just sounds like very natural, I would say.
And it's a very dynamic channel too. So say if you wanted to give more of that vintage kind of tone, like say, but if you just play ever so lightly, it'll have just a bit of grit.
Yeah.
And if you're really digging, it'll come through, but it's just nice of how dynamic that is.
And then go back to the pick as well.
So here's with the pick, going back to that scoop. I switched back to the neck pickup, but now going back to that. Yeah.
That's so good.
It's just very dynamic, which is so nice. If you want, let's go ahead and do the same thing. We'll mess around with the EQ. I'll play that same lick as before, and yeah, let's go for it.
And I don't know. Yeah, sorry if I'm not close to your settings, but
yeah, we basically took a lot of time just to dial in our perfect settings for our gigs. But
yeah,
no, you got pretty close, honestly.
Hey, I'll take it. I was just like.
All right, so now we're gonna get to. I will say, I'm gonna say this before we get to the final channel. I don't tend to use a lot of super heavy drive channels. This channel, I would imagine, is definitely more meant for the metal bass players, like if you're playing gent or just very, very hardcore metal, where there's actually not a lot of low end needed in your bass tone. This is probably what this channel is meant for. This drive is very fizzy, from what I've heard people describe it. So I will go back to the 2 outer coils for this specific line that I'm going to try to play. I'm going to mimic. This is what this sound kind of reminds me of. Like when I hear the sound, this is what I imagine people would use to play.
Yeah.
So very big and bombastic for sure, very fizzy, and I'm sure that, you know, if you're gent,
dang,
it's very much that sound, and you kind of have to dial in a certain way.
Bombastic is accurate.
Yeah, and it's because these 2 dirt channels share this 3-band EQ.
Yeah.
Each do have their separate gain and volumes, but they do share that 3-band EQ. So if you have one set up for the vintage dirt, it might not work for this drive channel.
Now, does the dry wet, is that only with the drive channel as well, or
yes,
is it for the dirt channel?
That is the only specific thing with the modern drive channel, is that this white knob, it is a dry wet blend. So if you do needed a little bit more of the thump of your dry signal, so you can get a couple more different tonal options with that, have a little bit more of your low end. But let's go ahead and turn some knobs again. I'll play that same riff, and go for it. It seems to have more of a low end response when you go full wet, it seems like.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how much variety we were able to get out of that.
Honestly, yeah. So, like I said, it's not meant for me, per se, for the type of songs that we do, just being in a cover band. But this is a great option if you are in the metal world. Like, if you do really enjoy that type of very fizzy kind of overdrive, this is a great overdrive for you guys.
The only downfall, just slightly, is the fact that the dirt channel and then the drive channel share the EQ.
Yeah, that would be one of the only cons, and I do have a couple more cons that I'll get to a little bit later, is that I just wish that they did have some separate EQ sections with that. But what we're going to do, we're going to go back through all the different channels and we'll go through them quickly, but we're going to go through them, and now we're going to activate the 8x10 cab sim, that Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab sim. Right. So, going to go back to the clean channel here. And so this is without the cap sim. and I'll go back into singing right row, do that funky kind of bass line.
Right.
And yeah, well, James will
I'll switch it.
Yeah, I'll switch on and off the cap sim. So let's go for it.
All right, turning it on. Back off. Back on. Yeah.
So it cleans it up really well. If you're using this in a recording kind of scenario, it does it really does clean it up. If that's the kind of sound that you're looking for, if you're just looking more for a kind of a bed of bass in the mix, that really does help a lot. Yeah. What is also really nice about this, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but the Revolt bass and the Revolt guitar do also come with the Two Notes wall of sound plugins. So if you guys are recording and you guys would like to have some different cabinet IRs and not just be stuck with the analog cap sim that the Revolt has, you can plug this in with your DAW, and then you can either go in bass specific situations. You can use a Mark bass, an Aguilar, any kind of cabinet that you would like with any specific mic. So you got a lot of really good tonal options for recording as well.
Yeah, it's nice that you're able to get the options with that.
All right, let's keep going with the vintage dirt. Gonna go back to my P bass kind of sound, and we'll do the same thing, switching the cap sim on and off. So let's go for it.
Cap sim on. Off. Back on. Yeah, for sure.
It does clean it up really well. And so we'll do one more, again, with the Modern Drive. Gonna go back to that kind of bombastic flea bass tone, and we'll do the same thing again.
Back off. Back on. And back off. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with that dirt channel, it kind of controls that fizz of that drive.
Yeah, it makes sense with the cap sim on for that channel.
So yeah, honestly, other than that, I will get to a couple of the cons that I've had with this so far. Like I said, having the 2 drive channels, sharing that 3-band EQ is not necessarily the most ideal situation, but again, I don't really use that 3rd channel at all.
Right.
The aux in and headphone out. The volume of that, there is no volume knob for either of those. If you're wanting to do silent practicing, you essentially kind of have to turn any of these volume knobs all the way up to hear your bass. You do get a pretty good level if you're plugging in your phone or a computer with an MP3, like anything like that. But it is a little bit quieter than I would like it to be if I'm practicing it with in-ears or headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly the only con that I've really noticed. But again, I usually practice with in-ears. I'll usually plug into our rack, but more saying for those who are solely looking for this to be their all-in-one unit. That is just something to think about too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think honestly the only thing left to kind of test out is just to give you the sound of something going through the effects loop of the Revolt bass. And so I already have connected my Walrus Audio Julia chorus. So we'll turn that on and I'll just give you a very quick sound sample on the clean channel. This is full neck pickup with a pick. Probably one of my favorite intro bass lines to do with the chorus pedal.
Yeah.
So really nice if you ever, if you have modulation, any time-based effects like reverb or delay, great way to use that effects loop for sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, with whether it's bass or whether guitar for the Revolt, both of them I would highly recommend, like any delay, reverb, and modulation to go through the effects loop.
Yeah.
It just sounds better whenever it just takes the signal through that versus like putting everything in the front.
Yeah. And honestly, that's pretty much it. We could spend hours here just talking about this, and I have a bunch of other effect pedals that I could showcase, but we're gonna save that for another video.
That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna do a bunch of showcases on both of our pedal boards of what we got on them, and we'll go through each of those pedals specifically, but that is it for the Two Notes Revolt. Anything else that you can think of?
That's it, man. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episodes. Peace.